All right, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome to another live stream and episode number 4 of IRL Girl Talk, brought to you by IRL News Time of the PNT Live Network. I am your hostess, Alexandra Mayers. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day today. I'm doing pretty well. If you follow me on either Instagram or Twitter, and I'll go ahead and put those links up for those of you who are not familiar with me, you'll see that today I got back into the grind when it comes to my 6 months of fitness. All right. It's probably going to end up turning into 7 months of fitness because I took some time off due to a few things that I had to contend with. But I'm back on that because I am trying to get super slim going into the year 2022. So, anyways, as many of you can see, I had to move this show onto its own YouTube channel, mainly because this particular project has its own website. There's going to be a few more things that come along with what IRL Girl Talk is, and it just made more sense for it to be separated from IRL News Time. Actually, I'm probably going to be putting more efforts into some of my other projects over the next few weeks. So if you want to keep up with me, all you have to do is visit alexandramayerslive.com. Now, tonight's going to be a pretty brief show unless anyone wants to StreamYard in with whatever may be on their mind or whatever issues they may have or whatever thoughts they may want to share. But tonight, I primarily want to talk about thinking before you speak as an IRL streamer, especially if you are a young girl or even a later teen getting into IRL streaming, because oftentimes, especially when it's a live stream, you're on video, you're getting caught up in the moment, you're communicating with the chat's egging you on to do whatever it is that you're doing, be it something controversial or maybe not. Sometimes we lose ourselves. I've definitely been guilty of that over the years. But it's important that you do think before you speak and before you act when you are live streaming, simply because you don't know who may be watching. Okay, you have to remember that on YouTube, when you decide to live stream, it is a public platform. And as I was saying on my personal channel just the other day, last night actually, um, as soon as you decide to step in front of the camera as a live streamer, you become something called a social media personality and therefore a public figure. I encourage all of you to look up the definition of public figure over on Wikipedia, because they do specifically umbrella the term of social media personality under public figure. And when you're a public figure, sometimes when people choose to record you and when they may choose to replay those recordings, as a public figure, you don't have the same protections legally as someone who is not a public figure. So that's just something to think about. But another thing I want, especially young women and young girls, to think about who decide to become a live IRL streamer has to do with when you put yourself out there, safety needs to be of utmost concern to you. Okay? Um, if you look at my Twitter account, and let me go ahead and put those links back up. If you look at my Twitter account, the pinned tweet has to do with a nighttime stroll that I chose to take about a week or so ago throughout downtown Houston. Okay, now keep in mind, I am a 42-year-old woman, almost 43 years old, and there's people who look out for me and whatnot in my life. I'm very fortunate in that regard, and I also have a lot of street smarts. Some of you may not think so, considering some of my past choices. But believe it or not, when it comes to my personal safety, I'm very adept. I want young women to understand that if you become a live streamer, there's a lot of very predatory people out there who have nothing better to do in life than to follow you on social media, learn about you, in time attempt to communicate with you as your friend, though in actuality they may be a frenemy or even an enemy, somebody who has ill intent when it comes to you. And they may follow you and basically stalk you to such an extent to where they know where you live, they know your patterns of behavior, they know all kinds of things about you to where they could potentially hurt you, meaning physical assault. In the realm of young women specifically, I'm talking about sexual assault, I'm talking about rape. All right. Right now, unfortunately, there's a phenomenon going on within the world of IRL streaming, YouTube streaming specifically, to where you have certain kinds of trolls who, well, I'm not going to call them trolls, I'm going to call them people, predators, who, for whatever reason, want to troll young women, find out all kinds of things about them, dox them, and deplatform them. Okay. In other words, harass them to such an extent that they leave the internet for whatever reason. Maybe the young woman that they're targeting is competition for another streamer, because for a lot of these streamers, it's about racking in these donations, which is something that's going to end up coming to a close. Because I spoke to somebody who works at a social media company just earlier today, and I was voicing my concerns about a little something, and he gave me some insider information, which I'm not going to share tonight. But what I am going to say is there's going to be a lot more regulations as to how people can receive donations in the very near future when it comes to YouTube specifically, due to certain things going on. But anyways, what I was saying is that being that as a young woman, you typically would attract more attention than a young man or somebody older, for example. You do need to keep safety as your number one priority. You need to find a way to ensure that people don't figure out your patterns of behavior. You need to make sure that if you do decide to go out and about and live stream, you tell somebody who cares about you where you're going, what time you're going to go, what time you're going to come back, and whatnot. Um, I would not tell people beforehand exactly where you're going to be, being that there are a lot of stalkers and predators who specifically target young women. All right. And again, you got to think before you speak online. Maybe at this point in time, you're in your early 20s or late teens, for example. And maybe at this particular juncture in your life, you're feeling very passionate about maybe a certain political movement or some sort of a societal issue. Before you go too far in regards to what you're saying about whatever that issue or topic is, you need to really, take some time to pray or meditate and say to yourself, hmm, is this something that I'm going to be as passionate about in the future? Is this something that I'm saying, something that could hinder my job prospects in the future? Could it be something that's going to hinder um, potential relationships I may get into in the future? And I'm not just talking about family relationships. I'm talking about friendships, potential business partnerships, work relationships, even family relationships. So, this is something I'll probably touch on a bit more in the future, but it's definitely something I wanted to talk about this evening when it comes to thinking before you speak online. Another thing I do want to touch on before I move into the next topic has to do with talking about people who are in your immediate life when you're live streaming. And again, I've made all these mistakes. That's why I'm talking about them today, because I feel like I'm somebody who embodies a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge that I've learned through my mistakes, experiences that I've had that I wouldn't wish upon anybody else in the world. So I'm not just talking out my rear end here. I'm actually saying, don't make my mistakes. Look at my past body of work. Look at just everything that I've been through and try to learn from my mistakes. Try not to end up taking the same path as myself, because sometimes certain paths are very, very, very difficult to recover from. It's always possible to recover from virtually anything aside from death. But that's why I'm saying, think before you speak, keep your personal safety as something paramount in your life. That way, you don't end up either being killed by somebody or being pushed psychologically or spiritually to the extent to where you want to end your own life. Because that does seem to be the agenda with certain people who fixate on certain streamers, who constantly criticize them, berate them, and then receive donations for doing so, to where they're not going to stop as long as they're getting paid. It does seem that certain commentators' agendas does seem to be to push some of these, especially the young girls, either offline or, by whatever means necessary, even if it means that they're going to end up killing themselves. So that's just something I really wanted to bring awareness to. But let's go ahead and transition to the next topic now. Now, the next topic that I really want to discuss this evening has to do specifically with predatory older men who are targeting a lot of the young women who choose to become IRL streamers, and even what I consider to be the barely legal young women. I'm talking young women who are 18 years old, 19 years old, even as young as 17 years old. They'll wait until the girl turns 18 to try to infiltrate her life even deeper. But how can I explain this? And I'll probably end up editing this particular stream later down the line, or at least clipping this part out and inserting a sort of a flow chart or outline. That way, some of you can better understand what I'm talking about. Here's what a lot of older men seem to be doing when it comes to these young women and teens who become IRL streamers. A lot of times, the older men who are interested in the IRL streamer world tend to be men who are very immature, oftentimes men who are socially stunted for whatever reason. Maybe they've been traumatized in their life, or maybe they're just suffering from something called a Peter Pan syndrome. Okay. But oftentimes, even though these men are older, I'm talking late 30s up into their 50s even, they're not attracted to women their own age, because mentally they're still teens themselves, or men in their early 20s. They're only attracted to young girls. And they're realizing that we live in a society to where it's becoming more and more increasingly socially acceptable, at least in certain circles, for men in their late 30s into their 50s, even older sometimes. I mean, I was just talking on my personal stream last night about what I call the Hugh Hefner syndrome. But they think it's acceptable to get into a relationship with a girl who's either barely legal. I'm talking a girl between the ages of 18 and 20 years old, or a girl, or a young woman rather, in her early 20s. What some of these men are doing, and it's a pattern that has been observed and documented by many professionals, people who hold far more degrees and whatnot than I do. What they will do is they will create a slew of alts. In other words, alternate online aliases, troll accounts, have you. And they will start to stalk and harass their target, the young woman or girl, from these multitude of accounts in a very extreme, very harsh way. They will insult everything about her. They will make her feel isolated, alone, like nobody likes her, like she has no friends. They will go after any support system that this girl has. They will slander her, libel her, tell lies about her. They will do anything to isolate her from any regular support that she has. They will go as far as to research her. They may contact her friends and family, maybe even her workplace. The goal is to isolate her. Then, from their personal, alias or account, who they actually are, whatever account they want to be known to the young woman or girl as, they will approach her as her savior, as her white knight, as someone who's going to help her, someone who's there for her. Because keep in mind, they've already isolated her from any support system that she has. But then they swoop in, they're like, "Oh, I can understand. I can relate to you. I can help you." And slowly, as she starts to trust this nefarious individual as himself, he's presenting himself as someone who's there to help, even though he's been harming her all along the way. The alts or the troll accounts that he's been utilizing, he'll slowly but surely back off when it comes to the harassment that he's behind. But he wants to create the illusion that somehow he has solved her problem. Somehow he's had the inside track in order to put a stop to the harassment and whatnot. Meanwhile, he still is keeping her isolated. He's still using these accounts to bully anyone trying to help her, anyone trying to explain this to her, anyone who might be seeing things. But the goal is to be able to meet her in person and start some sort of a relationship with her. Because keep in mind, he's not able to facilitate any sort of a relationship with anyone who is his own age or via anyone who he meets, face to face in person outside of this process. So again, I'm going to clip this part out, insert a flow chart and whatnot. That way some of you understand this process a little bit more. But it has been observed when it's come to quite a few female streamers right now. I am actually observing a bit of it in regards to a young woman who I chose to be the friend of. And I'm not going to say her name on this particular stream, but if you go over to IRL News Time and you look at one of the most recent videos, you'll see who I'm talking about. But just recently, there was a post put on a particular forum, a forum that I'm not going to name, but I'm going to read to you some of the comments that were made to her. And the particular person who someone just happened to catch, a particular person who is pushing 50 years old, who really has no business in a 19-year-old's live stream room. This person is known for triangulation when it comes to attempting to get in contact with young girls. He's also known for being very abusive towards women who don't want to deal with him anymore. And he's looking for a young girl. But I'm just going to read to you all something that he or someone wrote, most likely him, because he is known for quote unquote shit posting. Here's one of the comments. By the way, most older men lower their standards dramatically for youth, just a little for your information. In other words, for a 25 to 35-year-old man, a 5 on the scale for their early 20-year-old selves is a 10 when they are up in age. It's just a fact. That's because the older you get, the more beat up you become mentally, emotionally, especially if you've had kids in multiple marriages, etc., etc. And then the same person posts a follow-up on the same thread, and that's how I know that this person is the person who's mentioned, but I'm not going to say their streamer name on this particular video. I mean, I don't know, and then they name this particular streamer who's pushing 50 personally, but an older man would really be her one hope to maybe leave her room for a change. Ha ha. If she got with someone her own age, they are both mentally underdeveloped and focusing on the most retarded shit there is in culture. Sad to say, but the worse off a young chick is, the more likely an older man. But not an old man can help them. And then he goes on. But the thing is that I think that this particular man is trolling her to an extreme level to make her think that she's worthless, that she has no other options but an older man. So it's not too long from now that he's likely going to swoop in, try to play the role of a white knight, and that would be one of the worst things for her, because this particular streamer also has an extreme substance abuse issue, extreme alcoholic. So young girls out there, if you decide to be an IRL streamer, nobody can stop you. I've said the same thing when it comes to young girls who want to become an adult entertainer. Nobody can stop you. Do I recommend being an adult entertainer? No. At this stage, until some legislation is passed when it comes to the extreme bullying that's going on online right now, I don't recommend any young woman become an IRL streamer at this point in time. I just don't. I don't. It's too many predators out there, in my opinion. It's too many. But if you are going to do it, then you need to know and understand some of the things that I've chosen to discuss tonight. You need to make sure that you let your family members know what you are getting yourself involved in. You need to be very professional about whatever it is that you choose to share or speak about. Do not share many details about your life if possible. Do not disclose exactly where you live or anything. And in the name of Jesus Christ, please, please, please do not dabble in the world of adult entertainment and use IRL streaming, meaning regular mainstream IRL streaming, as your launch pad. Okay? As of current, there do seem to be a few people who are linked directly to criminal sex trafficking who have their eyes on the IRL streamer community. They are specifically targeting young women, and they are approaching these women with offers to enter the adult entertainment industry. There is a young woman who just said, I would assume either yesterday or maybe the day before yesterday, that she's contending with a situation to where her family is not welcoming her to the holiday festivities because she has chosen to go from IRL streaming further into the adult entertainment industry. So everything I'm talking about tonight is super dangerous and could potentially ruin your life. I'm sitting here trying to warn you. Will some of you ever listen to me? No, you won't. Because a lot of you who may stumble across this are young girls. And I know very well, and I remember very well what it was to be a young girl. But I'm just trying to give many of you young girls out there the benefit of my experiences and my knowledge base. Okay? So take care, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I try to do this particular live stream every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I try to leave the StreamYard link open. That way, if you do want to come in and share your thoughts or experiences, or if you have questions, you can do so. So take care. Again, if you want to follow me, you can do so. Let me go ahead and put my little social media links back up. And I see you, 999 Smiles. Thank you for coming in this evening. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming in. If you want to contact me, you can. And remember, you can subscribe to this channel. The link is over on IRLGirlTalk.com. Take care, love yourself, and make sure that you respect yourself too. Good night. Bye-bye.